Now, you mentioned the IRS targeting the Tea Parties and the freedom seekers. What do you make of that?
Well, I've been a victim of that. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, there's some confirmed jackbooted thug animal rights freaks that was infested into our U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service by, God, the name's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't say it right now, probably because I try to keep toxins off my lips. I will get that name for you. But she was appointed by Bill Clinton, probably Hillary, and now the director, the one-time director of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, that's to manage our wildlife and responsibly and accountably utilize our hunting and fishing and trapping tax dollars in Robert and Pittman funds to manage wildlife for healthy, flourishing biodiversity. She is now the CEO of an animal rights anti-hunting organization. So that'd be like putting the brown shirts in charge of your bar mitzvah. You can't get crazier than this stuff. So my point is that I was targeted by these jackbooted thugs, just like Gibson was targeted by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife jackbooted thugs. And if there's some jackbooted thugs in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife listening to this right now and you're getting angry, that would be guilt. And there's some great men and women in U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And shockingly, and I even question my own sanity as I say this next sentence, there are probably some basically good people at the IRS, one or two. There are probably some good people in OSHA and USDA and FDA. I know there's no indication that there is, but I believe that some people have been so bamboozled and brainwashed and kowtowed and paid off as they avoid Obamacare. Even though the IRS has to enforce Obamacare, they don't have to abide by Obamacare. You got to be kidding me. You really, this is where we are as a nation. So the government arm in charge of enforcing a law doesn't have to adhere to the law. Achtung, motherfucker. Click those jackboots, baby. Stormtroop up a storm. It's phenomenal. It's like Planet of the Apes flew over the Twilight Zone cuckoo's nest, and they're in charge. So it's not surprising what the IRS did, because all the Environmental Protection Agency, wait till you finally discover what I already know about the EPA targeting conservative ranchers and shutting them down because rainwater caused an aqua plant to burst for the first time in satellite-confirmed history, but they lost their ranch because they dared to plant corn, where they had planted corn for over 100 years. But it was now decreed a wetland because they were conservative Republicans. When you find out what OSHA, what USDA, what the EPA, what the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and I could go on and on with all these jackbooted letter agencies, when you finally discover, when America finally discovers that the IRS targeting political opponents of the regime is, if ever there was a tip of the iceberg, the IRS scandal is it. It's tragic. And by the way, I get no pleasure out of sharing this information with you.